What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Aftersound here, bringing you Splinterlands content every single day. We also stream right here on this channel as well as on Twitch, so make sure you come by and say hello. This video is also brought to you by my music, which is available anywhere you stream music under the name Aftersound. And I do have a new song coming out very soon on June 27th, 2025. It is a remix of my track Dreamin' by Deep Source, who is a fellow Splinterlands player. So make sure you check it out. Let me know what you think, and I appreciate the support. All right, guys, let's talk about land because, with all the hoopla around Conclave Arcana and Yabba's Pickle and even conflicts and stuff coming up, all the crazy stuff, the campaign mode, foundations, there's been a lot that's happened. And we have not really checked in on a lot of things land-wise. I've been doing the land updates, but one thing that I wanted to take a quick look at is how inflationary are some of the land resources right now. Or, we know that they're inflationary, but just how bad is it? Now, for context, if you remember, I kind of put a little bit of a false alarm out a while ago when I was looking at the amount of grain that was out in the ecosystem and thinking, oh my goodness, we're going to run out, right? Obviously, that has not been the case. The community, or I should say the landowners, have reset or, reconfigured their land. And you can see that we're still over 7 billion grain tokens that are in circulation as we speak. So as I come over to this other, the land SPL stats website here, shout out to the folks who are putting this together. You can see here that on the total resource overview, grain, we'll start there just because that's what, the initial one that came out and the first one that we'll talk about, is the only resource that is currently deflationary, we'll call it, right? Meaning that we consume more than we produce, and that's only by 2 million per day. So when you consider the fact that, it's 122 million grain that's produced daily and 124 million that is consumed. Maybe we can round up to 125, but still, it's about maybe 2.5 of a delta, 2.5 million of a delta there. So when you're considering that we have 7 billion extra or surplus grain right now, that's not going to be a lot, right? Like that, it's going to be a very, very long time until we run low on grain. So everybody who's sitting on grain or who has grain, who bought grain, they're probably doing pretty well for themselves, or it's probably still relatively cheap to go and buy it on the secondary market. Now, where this gets interesting is when we look at the other natural resources here, right? So wood, stone, and iron is where I'm going to focus. You can see that with wood, we're producing 2 times the amount that is consumed, right? So 17.4 million produced, 8 million consumed. Stone, similar, right? Again, just from a ratio perspective, 7.3 million produced and 3.2 million consumed. And then iron is actually more than that. Maybe this is almost like 2.5, with 1.9 million produced per day and then 800,000 consumed. So where's all the stuff going? Okay, well, right now there is technically a home for it in the sense of, yes, we have to, you can produce research, you can produce aura, right? You can mine SPS, but you can see that people are not really going after it that much. People are producing, or just in aggregate, everybody's producing way, way more than is needed for these things. So the other area in which I think, and we've seen it grow, just not as fast as I thought it would, is the liquidity pools, right? And I've talked about that in a separate video. I'm not going to go into that here. But we've seen these liquidity pools start to fill up a little bit and grow. I think that there's a lot of hesitation because in price discovery, the last thing you want to do is get caught in some kind of weird, mix. So my whole point with this is that we haven't seen that utility really come in and, create that demand for it. So on the horizon, we do know that conflicts could be something that come in and actually have more direct utility and create direct demand for these resources. Again, we don't have the information yet fully, but wood, stone, and iron would be my best bet if I was a gambling man on what would be required to not just create or build, but also maintain the wagons. And then I don't know if grain is going to be involved in that, but grain is already involved in the production of all of the other resources, as well as research, SPS, and aura. So, grain will probably be just fine there. And at the same time, when you consider the fact that grain is already deflationary, I don't think the team or anybody who's looking at the economy of land necessarily needs to focus in on grain. It's, hey, we got all these other tokens here. Let's find use cases for them. So I like the fact that we will have conflicts coming in and potentially using these up very soon. We also have obviously like Yaba's Pickle and well, actually, no, those won't be using it. Those will just be, yeah, those won't be using it for the tickets. Those will be vouchers. So yes, it's really just going to be the conflicts. But my question, and this is as we talk about what is the long term plan for land, right? What do the building blocks look like to get us from 1.75 to 2.0? That becomes the question, right? Where in the next 6 months, for example, aside from conflicts, can we see some potential utility for these? Maybe it's direct demand, direct utility, or if it's other things that are brought into the game, such as a land-related card that would require more of these resources to be used, right? Because the whole idea of this is that, okay, cool, we have grain deflationary somewhat right now, but we've built up, such a huge surplus that what you'd want to see is people having to go in and create more wood, stone, and iron in order to produce these cars or in order to produce the resources to make these things, whether it's mage wagons, whether it's a card, whether it's promos, whatever the case is, right? You want to see that happen there. So at the end of the day, like, I don't know what that looks like, but I'm excited to see how it evolves. It's just right now we're getting into a situation where there's way more, way more of these resources out there than is really necessary. And if you look at this, right, so 7 billion grain is available. I didn't realize it was here, but 7 billion grain is available. You got almost 300 million wood. You got 100 million stone and 32 million iron. So what's going to come in and start to chip away at those? And it's not just that. We are in a surplus right now, but we're also inflationary, which means you need to do something like land needs to be utilized in a way, or the resources on land needs to be utilized in a way where not only, before we can even get to these surpluses here, we're going to need to flip the consumed and produced daily, meaning that we should potentially need some other things available on land, right? Or the things that land creates just require so much more. So, maybe we need more aura producing areas. Maybe we need more research producing. Maybe people go, heavy back into SPS if SPS starts to rise, right? I haven't even done the math on that. I'm no longer getting SPS on my land, but it's just a matter of, okay, what does this look like in the long run? What does this look like in the short run? In the short run, or I should say, what is the long run and the medium run? In the short run, we know conflicts are coming in. How much of an impact will they make? My guess, just being honest with you, is probably minimal. So I'd really be curious to see what the team can cook up in the next 3 to 6 months, meaning that, we'll say like end of Q3, early Q4, and then maybe early next year, right? Because we're already at the end of June, and hopefully we're going to get conflicts in July. So if we get conflicts in July, maybe we get some kind of land-related card in October, and then I'd love to see some kind of progression into Land 2.0 or towards Land 2.0 by early next year or even the end of this year if it's possible. So that's all I want to share with you, just a little bit of an update on where the resources stand, but let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Otherwise, I will catch you all in the next one and see you around the game. Take care.